I'm Mayor Watt. I run that site. ohmTown is a news aggregation site. And hundreds of articles get funneled into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. If you're watching the stream, welcome to the show. Every day from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., I go through the last 24 hours of headlines. Only a sample of them, 20. For more, you can go over to ohmTown.com, sign up, become a citizen. You actually get to choose which channels you actually want to get news from. And there's 50 of them, and I intend to bring all 50 of them to Twitch. 50 1-hour shows, maybe longer, it really depends, and then we'll parse it down and post it over on YouTube after 24 hours and post it as a podcast as well. And so you can actually get this stream as a podcast, just the audio portion, but it has show notes so that you can go to the links that I'm going to go over. So again, welcome to the show. I'm not going to go into a long what's been going on in the last 24 hours in terms of just chatting about stuff, because I want to go over the news really quick, and then if anybody wants to hang out and chat, I'm up for that as well. Hello, welcome to the show. So the very first article is here in the Mobble channel, and again, all of these that I talk about, like Mobble and the Daily News Show, these are all shows that I actually want to bring here to Twitch. I really like the live stream, the real-time interaction. Sometimes I will get pulled away and just kind of on a soapbox kind of a thing. But the intent really is to get you talking about one of the headlines at least. I hope that you find it interesting and you go over to the source website and read more about it, because I actually don't read the material prior. You are reading it when I read it. You're reacting when I'm reacting. We're basically surfing the web together, except that it's through ohmTown and the news sources that I have vetted for efficacy. If I have reviewed them to see if they are true or of value of some way to me, because that is actually what ohmTown was created for: news aggregation, for me to consume in an orderly way, because I consume about 200 news sources regularly each day, pretty much. That said, let's get into this. I easily get distracted. The first article is over in the Mobble channel. I already threw the link in chat. Scientists who predicted Arab Spring skyrocketing wheat prices are creating a global regime of risk. So on December 17th, 2010, a Tunisian street vendor named Mohamed Bouzazi set himself on fire in front of a government office, an act to symbolize rebellion against autocracy, economic insecurity, and that eventually sparked the Arab Spring. I don't know if anybody still recalls this, but it was in various institutions. It was a discussion of what might happen, what would come in the relatively near future, and where we are now. If there is a great change, I would love to know how it impacted people in the longer term, because and depending on where you are, you may have just witnessed something that is rather astonishing in what I would think would be astonishing in modern society, which was mass execution. Yeah, we're starting right out of the gate with something like that. So I'm really sorry if it's offending anybody. Don't worry, there's other news. We'll continue on. But this is happening in parallel to the rest of the stuff that might be good, might be bad, might be something indifferent. And we all have to filter through it. But being aware of your situation in conjunction with in conjunction with the rest of the world, is supposed to allow you to understand your spot in the global, in the diaspora, in your worldview. Where are you positioned? Some people may not care, other people do. And yes, setting yourself on fire is a mind-blowing kind of concept. The wherewithal to actually go through with it. Some people say one thing about it, other people say something else. And so we all have our perceptions of this. But let's go over to the article, because it actually set the stage for something that's happening now. Something that I spoke about in the last episode. Let me scroll up a little bit here. So this is an article over at Vice.com written by Audrey Carlton. It says speculative commodity trading associated with diminished wheat supply from Russia and Ukraine are creating the conditions for more unrest and chaos worldwide. So this is one of those things where I have been looking at it, but it's beyond arm's reach for me. I'm trying to find the sources of why prices are increasing. And I can't find those fundamental machinations. This is not something where just the supermarket is raising prices. It's the material that they are getting from a supplier. The cost has risen, but why? So you look back another layer and you have somebody that's intermediate or multiple. There are multiples of people that take you from the fields of Ukraine to the supermarket that you buy your food at. And so you go back to another supplier and back again to another supplier, and each one is raising their rates because the previous one is raising their rates. So why is all of this happening? To me, my speculation is that there is a lot of money that is out there, and depending on where you are, you're either able to take advantage of it. So if you're a supplier at the base level, the raw materials, you can raise that rate and capture that money. And that's how you end up with, particularly in the realm of consumables like food. You can't recycle the food, right? You're consuming it, so you're always buying it. And if there's a lot of money floating around, you can raise the rates as a supplier, and people will keep on buying because you have to consume, just like gasoline, food, water. At some point, these rates go up because people, stakeholders, investors, they want more money for their investment. And then you get that speculation on the stock market, futures tradings, etc. All of this is at the fundamental level. It's increasing. So to me, it seems like it is opportunistic. It is taking place because people are seeing that there's a lot of government level infusions of capital to offset the costs, right? So like in the United States, there's talk about infusing money into the public so that they're not impacted by surging gas prices. Again, I think that it's price gouging. But this goes way beyond, just that one thing. Everything across the board is shrinking in the volume that you can purchase and going up in the price for it. And we don't know what the end of it will be, particularly in the United States. I can't speak about every country, but I know that it's happening in the UK. And other people in their countries have been telling me the same thing, that prices are increasing. So if we scroll down a little bit, this article is about wheat prices increasing. And so it says, today, Bar Yam sees economic fallout from Russia's invasion in Ukraine, which are exacerbating already surging food prices, as causing a regime of risk that makes further riots and political unrest more likely elsewhere. And I think that it's, let's see, what is this? It's the big boy getting excited over the chaos and taking advantage with something someone might believe. Yeah. And so, in essence, what this is saying is because of the conflict, people are raising their prices, but it's the people that are the suppliers. But there's more than enough supply in various locations to offset what is happening right now between Russia and Ukraine. Well, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But again, it says, just like down here, they asked the question, Vice asked the question, can you start by telling me how in 2010 you predicted the political unrest in the Middle East that came to be known as Arab Spring? So what I said in a couple of episodes ago, I said that because of the 2008 financial collapse, there was a massive amount of money infused into the system. And here it says, as a result of the 2008 financial crisis, there was a huge influx of money into the commodity markets, speculative money that was not driven by fundamentals, the supply and demand part, but was just driven by the shock of the fact that the mortgage market and the stock market were not good places to invest money. So it got moved into the commodity markets and created a huge peak in commodity prices, not just food, but also oil and so on. That peak triggered food riots. So now we're going to get inflation. We're going to get a recession. We're going to get shrinkflation, which is what I mentioned earlier, smaller amounts of material for a higher price. And then people are just going to stop spending on anything other than what is absolutely necessary to survive, and you end up in a recession. And this will spread. And that's my belief here in the United States, that we're going to see 1970s level inflation. So think upwards of 20% inflation. But this article is going to go into greater detail, and I want you to go over to it and read it. You can go at any time, obviously, but if you click that link, it'll throw you over to ohmTown, and then at the bottom of the little headline, which is like this, right here, it says "Visit the source." You click that, and you'll be able to read more about it. So my whole show is about trying to motivate you to go over and read it. And while I give it some context, it's not something that you as a member of society can really just glean from a talking head. But I can give context to it, and I can answer some questions to some degree. It really depends on the scope of the question. But I hope it spurs you into action and causes you to want to talk about it, not just with me, but with the people around you, because your context is going to be different than mine. Wherever you might be, you are slightly impacted by things, global machinations, differently than me. But I'm happy to talk about it. I love doing this stuff. So, but let's continue on. I've got about 20 articles, and it's there. Some of them are a little more, I don't know, family friendly than talking about immolation. Sunflowers, wheat. They're Ukraine is the biggest exporter of sunflower seeds. But that's like low hanging fruit kind of a thing. This next article is over in the Marble channel. This magical grimoire was co-authored by a disturbingly realistic AI. And here it says, this is a passage from the first occult text co-written by a human and artificial intelligence. But this book, GPT-3 Technosis, a chaos magic, I don't know what Buto, B-U-T-O-H, grimoire is, Well, I know what a grimoire is. It's just a book with spells and other things in it. But I don't know what BUTOH is. Isn't only a vehicle for unsettling machine-assisted prose, it's also a mystical handbook with a twist. The co-author is a digital entity called Norn, which not only assisted in creating these occult rituals, but also performed them on itself. And that is entirely why I clicked on this article. That's why I selected it for the Daily News Show, because it's tech and kind of weird. So this article is over at vice.com. It's written by Tamlin McGee. Motherboard Tech by Vice is the section. Occult author Ali Words, I wonder if that's a pseudonym, is using machine learning to unlock the subconscious mind of the internet. And it looks like they used the AI to actually build this artwork. Because it kind of, if you're listening to this via the podcast, which will get published either tonight or tomorrow, it's basically an image of what looks like DNA strands with maybe cells at the top or atoms at the top, and a pair of eyes. And then of course the background of it seems to be galaxy clusters. It's very kind of creepy, very creepy. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So if it goes too fast and you're in my chat, I apologize. I don't try to make you nauseous, but maybe some of these articles do. Let's see. Because the inputs into GPT-3 are so vast and varied, almost all of the public web, including everything on Wikipedia, working with GPT-3 is like, quote unquote, working with the subconscious mind of the internet, said Ali Words, the grimoire's human co-author. They told that to Motherboard, again, over at Vice. And there's a lot more to this. So I'm scrolling slowly through this, but I don't normally read the entire article live on the air, and I don't prep beforehand. But it has text that it is written, and it looks like it might want to be kind of like a spell of some kind, or chants, prose that you would read to try to tap into your subconscious. And here's another little section of the article. It says, just as more traditional occult work involves the practitioner guiding the process into a cohesive result, Words, W-U-R-D-S, the author, had to occasionally push the AI in the right direction. For this reason, Words views GPT-3 technosis, a chaos magic Buto. I don't know what that is. I get hung up on that when I try and say this phrase. Grimoire as a human AI collaboration, and when you consider the enormous inputs that train GPT-3, also a collaboration with the internet as a whole. Yeah, I think if you're into artificial intelligence and technology, you might be interested in this article. I've done some stuff with artificial intelligence, primarily in the area of personality assessment, assessment of web pages, the emotional content of it, of a web page, if it's hostile or if it's positive or negative or if it's neutral. Part of a search engine that I spun up that assessed personality, both as an end user and as the web itself. It no longer exists, but the concept does. This is another piece of artwork. Oh, so Buto is a form of Japanese dance theater. Oh, okay. A range of activities, techniques, and motivations for dance performance and movement or movement. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, sometimes I look this stuff up while I'm doing the stream, but I'm going to scroll up real fast, so avert thine gaze if you don't want text to scroll by and make you dizzy. But we're going to continue on with the next article. This is over in the Warcrafters channel. And it's Nora, the Conspiracy is a turn-based tactics game with a real-time twist. And the snippet, which is actually a lot longer than I like it to be, says, from the early XCOM games to indie hit Into the Breach and blockbuster RPGs like Divinity, Original Sin 2, Original Sin 2, turn-based tactics games have a rich history on PC. There's always just been one fundamental problem with their mechanics. You need to wait your turn. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm not really into turn-based games. I really like the immediacy of action and not planning. And then if it fails, what Co-Carnage refers to as save scumming. I don't know anybody else that refers to saving and rebooting a game or reloading a game as save scumming. But yeah, I don't like turn-based games so much. If I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, an RPG of some kind, then I do. But here it says, yes, while planning and executing your battle stratagems is a thrill, wouldn't it be great if instead of watching yourself get pounded on your opponent's turn, you could actively defend yourself against them? Apparently that's what this offers. So let's go take a look. The site that this was aggregated from is pcgamer.com. There's always a lot more over at the site than from what is aggregated by my my engine. And this is actually, it says that it was sponsored. And apparently this has gone free to play, according to this article. Let me pause this. So Nora, N-O-A-R-A, the Conspiracy. On offensive turns, you have 75 seconds in which you move your colorful crew of units around the map, attack your enemy, and ultimately destroy their base. But here's the twist. When defending, you can disrupt your enemy's turn-based moves in real time. Well, that's neat. I dig that. Let's see. Is it... I'm going to scroll down real fast. So it's in Steam Early Access, so you can go and check that out. And of course, I'll stop saying it now. But if you click the link in chat, it'll take you over to ohmTown, and then from there you can click the link over to PC Gamer. Or of course, you can always just go to Steam and do a search for Nora the Conspiracy. Hopefully their search engine will pull it up just off of N-O-A-R-A. So let's continue with the next article. This one is in Stock Marketeers channel. What's worth streaming? Here's everything coming to Hulu in April 2022 and what's leaving. I chose this off of that headline and the little snippet. Get ready for the Kardashians, the return of Woke, and Andrew Garfield in Under the Banner of Heaven. But I have an ulterior motive, and that is because I'm not really a fan of Hulu's interface. We'll click the link and I'll take you over to MarketWatch. MarketWatch is the source. And I like to remind people that MarketWatch, if you review an article, if you read an article at MarketWatch, there's a really good chance that if you go back to that same article, either the headline has changed or the URL has changed. Well, the URL actually stays the same, but the headline sometimes changes. In this case, it was first published on March 20th, but then updated on March 24th. I've always thought that was weird. Instead of republishing or publishing a new article and referencing this one, they actually edit the original. I'm not sure why, because people don't go back. The only reason why anybody who is watching this stream would even know that this article exists is because I'm actually drawing attention to it. This article was actually written by Mike Murphy, and it says, again, they always have a referenced symbol of some kind, and that's kind of what makes Market Watch. And it says the biggest new title is the Karsashians, which I've never even heard of. Karsashians, which basically picks up where E's Keeping Up with the Karsashians left off after ending its 20-season run in March. I don't recall anything being called the Karsashians, and I feel like I'm broken. Has anybody ever heard of I thought it was the Kardashians, but anyway, maybe this is something I guess it was on E and now it's on Hulu. Anyway, then they talk about the surreal. Yeah, it's weird because it has all of the things having to do with Kardashians. It's all the same people, but that's weird. So maybe it is a typo, but that's so weird. So then they talk about woke, and they talk about a teen mystery series, The Hardy Boys, which is really old school, but they've turned it into a more modern version of it. Then it's Mayans MC, Under the Banner of Heaven, which I've never seen. It says it's Under the Banner of Heaven is a limited series based on the John Krakauer book about a 1984 murder in Utah and Mormon detective whose faith is tested as he uncovers secrets involving the Church of Latter-day Saints. I'm sure that's going to be well received. And it's going to continue on. This article goes into greater detail about what's coming and going. So be sure if you are interested in what's in Hulu. I'm sure Hulu is regional, so depending on where you are, this either applies or doesn't to some degree. And that locality thing has always been an issue. And the real reason why I even brought any of this up is because licensing is so convoluted. There is a show that I've been watching called Vera, Vera. It's a British murder mystery show. And it's brilliant writing, but it comes from an author who actually wrote books. And so it's just amazing writing, great acting. The stories are always phenomenal. Each episode is a canned episode. And then, so I believe it is a mistake in its name too. It's actually quite interesting that it persisted. They did a spell check and replace of anything that had to do with Kardashian. They actually misspelled it 4 days after it was originally published. Why did it persist? Anyway, so this Vera show, it's in British TV, but for me, I have to subscribe to a service called BritBox. And halfway through the series, it's no longer on BritBox. The second half of the series has been licensed by Acorn TV, which is a different app that I have to subscribe to, right? So I'm paying $7 a month for BritBox and $6 a month for Acorn TV, plus what I'm paying already for everything else that I'm subscribing to. And it's all because there's this fractured licensing. And I think that it needs to be better than that. It needs to be like a clearinghouse where anybody can license the material and stream it. And that way customers have a choice of where to stream it instead of having to piecemeal their way through a series that's been running for 12 years. But you should go and check out Vera if you haven't checked out Vera before. So I'm going to continue on to the next article. Otherwise, we'll be here for 4 hours just talking about the headlines. And like I said, I get easily distracted. So this next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel. This has to do with the United States. So if you are international, apologies for throwing some stuff at you that you may not really care about. But economic report, U.S. jobless claims fall to lowest level since 1969. And it says initial jobless claims fell 28 to 187,000 in the week ending March 19th, said the Labor Department. And that it's the lowest since 1969. But let me click this link. It'll take us over to MarketWatch. This article is written by Greg Robb, and it doesn't look like it has been updated, at least not in a significant way. It says continuing claims fall by 67,000. So one of the problems that I have with something like this is it kind of lacks context, because we really don't know so if you are seeking a job and you stop seeking a job, you literally bow out of looking for a job. You're no longer jobless. And so you are pulled out of that number of initial jobless claims, and you're not a job seeker. So there's really no disparity anywhere. You have no idea who is actually looking for a job versus getting the claims. So there is just a ton of people out there who don't have a job, have given up in what in 2022 and late 2021 is referred to as the Great Resignation, where people are bowing out because they're getting paid a pittance, and it's not a tenable position. There's no livable wage unless you're living with 15 people in an apartment. And don't get me wrong, I started out like that. My first apartment, I was sharing with 4 other people. One of the people actually was married, so there were 2 people in one of the bedrooms with a kid. And my next apartment was actually, when the rain fell, my walls would sweat because the water would seep through the cinder block walls. So I understand, that it's all subjective, right? My hardship isn't the hardest that other people have. So, but I understand that. I'm kind of, I'm sympathetic, right? But nowadays, salaries have stagnated in the US. Costs are going up. Inflation's going up. The cost of living is going up. And people are still getting paid what they were getting paid 2 decades ago. The minimum wage just now got bumped, but not everybody is being impacted in a positive way by it. So it says here, economists polled the Wall Street Journal and had expected claims to total 210,000, but it was only 187,000. And it says, with workers scarce, companies are not laying off workers. Well, they're not treating them very well either. Although in some sectors, like the legal sector, it is booming with high-paying jobs if you are a competent attorney. What's neat about MarketWatch is when you mouse over tickers, it tells you some stats about it. So S&P 500 today went up plus 1.43%. But I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't really tell you all what to do in terms of investing. But if you can invest and start socking away some money, just do it. Don't touch it. Just invest it somewhere with low to medium risk and just leave it alone. Treat it as if it's not even there anymore. And hopefully you're young enough that by the time you retire, there will be some money sitting there. If I would have done that when I was a whole lot younger, yeah, things would be different. This next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. The White House slams the reopening of the Moscow Stock Exchange as a charade, with Russia banning foreigners from selling. Nothing screams confidence in your stock market like forbidding an entire sector from selling, not trading, but selling. So it says trading resumed in Moscow after a month-long pause, and the benchmark index rose as much as 12% before ending up 4%. Yet Russia imposed strict rules like banning short selling and stopping foreigners from dumping stocks. So market manipulation. You know, that really, that breeds confidence. Let me go back and there you go. So this is an article over at businessinsider.com, written by Harry Robertson. And the article is actually a little bit further down. I'm trying not to scroll really fast. Let's see. Trading started for 33 of the market's biggest companies. Foreigners were banned from selling stocks, preventing major U.S. investors from slashing their exposure to the country, and the session was shortened to 4 hours. And the White House said, what we're seeing is a charade. Let's see if there's anything else in here that really... Russian shares listed on the London stock market fell as much as 97% in a day earlier in March before trading was suspended. Yeah, well, that's kind of what happens when you invade another country and there's zero rationale for it. Maybe everybody should just stop invading countries. When I say stuff like that, I hear back periodically saying that I'm naive, essentially naive, or outright an idiot. But it's the truth. If everybody were to be, part of the same mindset that everybody is a human being and should be treated with respect, there would be no reason for wars. But you got to have some sociopaths running around causing conflict or blowing stuff up, robbing people, etc., etc. I'm trying not to be negative in the stream, but maybe all of these millions should be spent on discussing mental health and giving treatment to people who think about the profit of war. Let's continue on with the next article. I will end up going down a rabbit hole. I don't want to. This is another Hatch Ideas article. Lush stores in Russia are expected to run out of stock soon following the company's move to halt deliveries, the CEO said. Anybody who is leaving, if they are a foreign company, their assets are going to be nationalized by Russia. Supposedly. Not really sure if that's actually going to be followed up. But that's what Putin said, and also a moratorium on returning to the market for 10 years if you exit. That's why some American companies are still doing business out there, like Papa John's. Papa John's is still running all of its processes out there. Its enterprise is still being run by one person, apparently, 200 stores. That really hasn't gone viral or anything yet, but I sort of expect it to. But it says Lush stores in Russia will soon run out of stock, according to its CEO. The CEO told the Journal that Russian stores had 3 months' worth of supplies. Lush previously said it had halted online sales and supply shipments to Russia, but stores would remain open. I guess. Let's click the link. If you don't know about Lush, it's a cosmetics store. I'm not sure what all they have at their disposal, but this is a Business Insider article written by Abby Wallace. Yeah, I don't know much about Lush other than it exists. But I thought it was interesting to talk about this, that even a cosmetics store, in this case it says the cosmetics company operates 48 stores in Russia, which are majority owned by a Russian licensee, Dmitry Azarov. And I don't know who or what qualifies as an oligarch in Russia. Like there's actually like ultra rich people in Russia are considered oligarchs, certain ones. And apparently world governments know who they are because they're sanctioning them, taking their yachts. France, I think, has taken 2 so far. The U.S. is freezing out people, all sanctions because of the invasion of Ukraine. So stores and supply lines are being shuttered, and It's going to get rough. And as I said in other episodes, the innocent people of Russia they just want their makeup. They just want to stream on Twitch. They just want to go and get a pizza. But the administration is pulling them into this. And so it's literally innocent bystanders are being impacted by this. And they should just back out of Ukraine and then start paying to repair it. They should never have done this. Particularly under the pretense. But so after this, I don't think there's anything else having to do with Russia. I think that the news continues to be bombarded by this. And yeah, I could have chosen some other things, but we're coming up on a month plus, and it's looking pretty bad. So I want to raise awareness. I want to talk about it to some degree. But hopefully it'll conclude and we won't have to concentrate on the conflict. We'll be able to concentrate on doing the repairs. I just heard that, who was it? There was, let me do a search real quick, because it was Fortnite. So the makers of Fortnite, in something like 48 hours, generated $50 million. Let me see real quick. Yeah, so Epic Games donates Fortnite proceeds already at $50 million. And this was done like in a matter of a couple of days, I think. And it's supposed to go for several weeks. Let me make sure. Epic Games, pardon me, I don't want to get distracted too much. But let's see. On the official site, Epic Games points out that all proceeds from Fortnite between March 20th to April 3rd will benefit humanitarian aid projects for the people in Ukraine. And they were already at $50 million within 2 days. So hopefully reconstruction takes place and everybody gets back to, arguably everybody gets back to normal. And recovery is soon. But it says here more than 400 companies have withdrawn, at least temporarily, from Russia since it invaded Ukraine. Some have been there since the fall of communism, symbols of the enduring power of Western culture and commerce. And this is a list. So if you are curious about the companies that have exited, the New York Times has this massive list constructed by Alex Kalman, Antonio DeLuca, and Maya Coleman. And I'll leave it right there. Let's continue on to the next article. And it says, Apple researching how to make a Star Trek communicator badge. Apple's been researching how to make a small wearable loudspeaker that would be capable of beamforming audio so that you can hear it, but not anyone else. And I would love this. In fact, there is a company that is making a beamforming directional speaker. And what it amounts to is ultrasonic speakers that are focused to the point where if you are in the line of fire, and the reason why I'm holding my hands like this is because it is a rectangle on a little stand. And wherever it's pointed, you hear it in your head and nobody else around you. And if you move off axis, you don't hear it anymore as well. But it would eliminate like my microphone picking up ambient noise around my speakers, because I have speakers right here that are pointing towards me. And if they're turned up too high, my microphone will pick them up. It'll disturb people around me. And it's kind of, it can be irritating, right? So, but if I get this beamforming speaker, I can put it in front of me and it'll just kind of throw it into my head. Your head becomes the speaker. It's pretty neat technology. It's been around for a long time. It's actually The concept I've said in previous episodes is practical to tactical, or tactical to practical. Sorry, pardon me, I flipped it. Um, so government research, it's used in battlefields, and then it becomes commonplace in society. Like GPS started out as a tactical research project used for military purposes, and then it was opened up to the public. And now you can walk anywhere you want with your phone and know exactly where you are, above sea level, um, and your location around the world, all because of GPS. Well, these beamforming things have been were developed in military research, and they can be used to enforce police actions as well. These ultra loud, focused speaker systems, directional audio, as it says here. So let's take a look. It's over at Apple Insider, written by William Gallagher. And although they have AirPods, that I don't think would be this device. Apple calls a newly revealed patent application by the name Wearable Device with Directional Audio, but it's really Star Trek: The Next Generation. At heart, this is how to solve the problem of your entire away team, plus enemy aliens hearing when your mother calls to ask if you've remembered your coat. So just imagine being able to wear a device that will beam it into your head, and you can just wear it on your lapel. Here it looks like it's a necklace, but maybe it's just kind of sitting on the person's collar of their shirt, and it'll throw it up into your head, under your chin. I wonder if a beard will impact it. Probably not. But you can find out more if you go over to Apple Insider and read this article. The next article is also involving Apple. And it says here, it's in the Smack Talk channel. Apple to use world's first low-carbon aluminum or aluminium, depending on where you are, in the iPhone SE. Apple plans to make the iPhone SE using low-carbon and carbon-free aluminum produced from there's like typos in all of these articles lately. An innovative new smelting process. Its $4.7 billion green bonds investment helped create. Apple's green bond projects have so far seen the company invest $4.7 billion in research projects since its launch in 2019. Let's take a look at this. So again, this is an appleinsider.com article written by William Gallagher, and it has this front picture of somebody that I suppose is throwing something into a smelter. Yeah, I kind of do a smaller version of this with a forge, foundry, and doing aluminum casting. Nothing as industrial as this, at least not yet. Maybe I can start doing some bigger projects. I doubt it. Anyway, so yeah, it says here, Apple is committed to leaving the planet better than we found it, and our green bonds are a key tool to drive our environmental efforts forward, said Lisa Jackson, Apple's Vice President of Environment Policy and Social Initiatives, in a statement that they released. Cool, pretty neat, right? They do a tremendous amount of recycling as well. If you upgrade your phone, you can actually, it's very competitive actually with aftermarket in some cases. Something in really great demand, you would probably want to use a different service, but if you trade it in, they will extract everything from the device and recycle everything that they can. Instead of what happens with electronics, which is it gets sent to quote unquote third world countries, typically, where people are paid just nothing really to remove the components from the electronics. And they just throw it into bins and stuff. And then it gets recycled at a different rate, a different degree, than what Apple would do, because they actually have a device that takes everything apart and in a more automated and secure fashion. That's supposed to be, not supposed to be, it is more beneficial to the ecosystem. So now this next article is in the Word in Tech, and it's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. This is a review. I guess the embargo is dropped because it's about to drop to the market. I think you have to buy it right now through Epic, but it's coming to PC on Steam. Every step of the way through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, a D&D infused spin-off of Gearbox's cooperative shooter RPG Borderlands, you'd think to yourself, this would be so easy to get wrong. The voice acting is exactly 1 decibel away from irritating at all times. Every joke walks a tightrope between exuberant fourth wall prodding and juvenile gags. Hey, I'm there. If it's close to bathroom humor, yep, that's my bag. And after copious Borderlands games, spin-offs, and add-ons, there ought to be a sense of overfamiliarity about turning up at an enemy camp, shooting everything that moves. Let's continue on over to this article. It's at The Guardian, which I wasn't expecting when I clicked the link. The article's written by Phil Iwaniak. And let's see. This fun D&D infused cooperative shooter treads a line between fourth wall prodding and juvenile with unicorn queens and high-tech weaponry. I dig the artwork in this, by the way, and I'm not sure if everybody else will appreciate it, but I really like this style. There's just something about it that just kind of draws you in. And let's see here. There ought to be a sense of overfamiliarity about turning up at an enemy camp, shooting everything that moves, then watching your foes explode like scowling piñatas before you hoover up all the loot they drop. So there you go. It has a 4 out of 5 rating from Phil from The Guardian. You can read more about it, but I don't know. I think there's a video too there, a game trailer that was put on YouTube. I know that I'm going to be getting it, and I might start streaming it this summer. I'm planning actually to go full-time streaming beyond just the daily news show. So I hope to stream some games. I'll be focusing on sections of ohmTown for 6 to 8 hours a day. So stick around, follow, let me know what you dig, what you don't dig, but let's keep on going. This is one of the channels, Band of Bezel, that I really like because it's about engineering. It's about aesthetics. Watches are really neat, and really neat pieces of artwork. To some degree, they're all the same. They have the same components, sometimes in different shapes, different sizes, right? Always in different shapes, different sizes. But they're always unique. And a couple episodes I wrote about one, or I spoke about one and introduced everybody to a watch that's oil filled and has somewhere around 300 moving components. And it's just a beautiful watch. Well, this one is the Citizen Caliber 0200, was one of last year's surprise watches for this particular website, which is Monochrome Watches. It offered original aesthetics with very impressive movement and an intriguing dial. So let's go take a look at it. And again, Monochrome, which is monochrome-watches.com, always has really great photography. I have a couple of other news sources for watches, and they too, they do a stunning amount of photography that's just really, really amazing. Great lighting, really exposes the true nature of the watch. This article is written by Robin Nooy, Nooy. It's a really short article apparently, but it has this watch has a really nice face to it. The bezel is sharp edged. Looks like it's stainless steel. And the crown is really neat. The crown actually looks like it has oh goodness, what is it? I mean, it looks like it's the logo for Citizen, but I'm trying to place what I keep thinking it's from a video game, but I can't remember where it's from. Anyway, the Citizen Caliber 0200 limited edition celebrating the 1-year anniversary. And it says that it has the same architecture as last year's model, but comes with a few updates in the materials department. 40 millimeters wide, faceted stainless steel case with brushed and polished finishing. However, the bezel is now made from zirconia ceramic and is executed in black. Executed in black. My goodness. That's a bold word there. So there is the gears and the balance. So this is really neat. If you ever get a chance to go on YouTube and just do a search for watch repair, you'll see people that are doing it. And every watch to some degree has the exact same thing. There's a chain of gears or a train of gears, a balance. There's something that is charging the spring so that you don't have to keep on winding the crown. There's always crystals or jewels. And that's because that and a little bit of, you can't see my cursor, doggone it. So the little red rubies that are pressed into various parts of a watch actually have their pivots. And so metal is pressing up against that crystal, the jewel, and a little bit of oil is applied. And so there's very little friction. And it's just a neat concept that somebody came up with. The only bad thing about it is if you were to drop your watch may not be harmed on the outside or maybe a small scratch, but that impact can be forceful enough to crack one of those jewels, and then you have to go and get it repaired. So if your watch is suddenly acting wonky, that's why. And at $6,000 for this particular watch, you'll want to go and get it repaired. And you could probably think of it as kind of like a BMW in the sense that, yeah, it's you got hit by something and it hit your grill, but that grill is $5,000. So sometimes it's expensive to replace things, but let's continue on. This next article is in the Bead Baby channel, which in my intro for ohmTown, I had mentioned that I had actually started up a service where it was real-time buying and selling, trading beads in real time, right? So this is what that channel is all about. But not just beads. It's about jewelry, jewel finding, the people that craft this stuff. And it's as broad and gamut as you could possibly imagine. There's so much that people are creating. And I just want to give a forum to talk about it in real time with other people. In this particular case, it's about paracord knotted jewelry tutorials. And I always dig this kind of stuff because it seems like it would be, simple to do and you could do it anytime. But then when you click on this, the elaborate nature of what people do kind of goes above and beyond at times. I've seen squares made from paracord, and then all you have to do is pull on one part and it'll unravel, and then you can rebuild it again. But this is Paracord Knotted Jewelry Tutorials by Knot Finds Tutorials. And the beading gem is the author, and the beading gem just happens to be Pearl Blay, which is over here on the right-hand side of the screen. That is the beating gem. But if you go over to the site, beatinggem.com, you'll see some more materials and a way to, and tutorials to build your own bracelets out of paracord and some beads and other findings. Some of them are pretty elaborate. Some of them are pretty easy peasy. But I think they're always neat. Obviously, they don't really come across as being heirloom quality products. Some people might discount it because of that. But it's pretty neat stuff. You can go and buy these things from the vendors. And in this case, it will help you crane. So let's continue on to the next article. This is in Prime Glasses, which is a channel about photography and photographs. 4 reasons why NFTs are great for photographers. The little snippet is, in April of 2021, the photographer Jesse Froman auctioned an NFT representing his last formal session with Kurt Cobain before his passing. In August, previously unseen footage from Randall Slavin's final photo shoot with Chris Cornell was released in the form of an NFT. And in January of this year, the Associated Press launched an NFT marketplace for their award-winning photojournalism. If you don't know what an NFT is, raise your hand. No, just kidding. I'm going to click this link and take you over to the article. This is at 500 Pix. That's 500, the number 500, and then px.com. And it says published by Feature Shoot, which is apparently it's a composite. So there's no author name. It's just called Feature Shoot. And they always have great photography, as one would expect from a photography-minded website. But they talk about NFTs and why they would be a great fit. And for me, I think that it works in certain cases and seems like a FOMO kind of environment for others. In this particular case, you can own a piece of photographic history, and as long as it doesn't get reproduced anywhere, but the problem with anything digital is there's a philosophy that it isn't theft, because you're literally not forbidding somebody else from possessing it. If you make a copy of a photograph off of a website, and even if you use it, it's not quote unquote theft. That's the ideology that people use as a rationale for being able to take somebody else's artwork off of a site and sell it. Well, different people have different concepts of that. But historically, the concept of theft is that you are divulging somebody else from enjoying that item, whatever it might be. You know, if I have a cup of coffee and you take it from me, you're stealing from me. It's theft. If I take a copy of a digital book, there's an unlimited number of digital books. So Brill, you know what an NFT is, but you wouldn't know how to make it. You can actually do a really quick search for how to get started. If you do the search for how to get started in NFTs, there are tutorials that walk you through every aspect of it, including opening up an OpenSea account, connecting it to an Ethereum wallet, which you have to do, and connecting that wallet to a bank account. And then what you do is you pay a fee to OpenSea, and you can attach a piece of artwork, and for a fee, it will go on the OpenSea market and people will buy it in Ethereum, a cryptocurrency. And then you can sell that. You can do an exchange rate of Ethereum into wherever you might be. So I know where you are, but more generically, you can translate Ethereum into any currency that you want to translate it into. And so, pardon me, it's actually, it's easy once you follow the tutorial, but anything involving crypto is always abstract. So, but in this case, if you go through all of that, you purchase an NFT of a picture, you become the owner of that piece of artwork. And it's essentially a license to own that product. And depending on the terms, you can do whatever the heck you want with it. And you can put it back on the auction site and people can keep on raising the price. There have been NFTs that have been sold for millions of dollars, even though the idea behind this might seem absurd. It is lucrative for some people that have the ability to take advantage of it and are early adopters. If you're late to this game, it might be tough to find a winning formula. But for producers, for people who make items, particularly artists, musicians, photographers, etc., all you have to do is create the work. I know all you have to do is create the work, and then you can sell it. Like I can actually license each one of my podcast episodes as an NFT, and somebody can own that item. And the terms of which I can actually add to the terms of the NFT. So I can say, for instance, not only do you own the podcast and you can do whatever you want with the podcast, but the revenue that's attached to that podcast episode, you can get as well. And if I put it up on OpenSea, somebody could actually buy it for whatever amount that I initially set for, and then they can put it back on the market and sell it to somebody else, or I could buy it back. It's pretty neat. But again, if you don't take advantage of it, are you really missing out on anything? It's kind of like looking back at a price of something after you purchased it, only to see that it went down or went up. If you just don't look back, it's not a big deal. So let me scroll up really fast. That way you can see the name of this article is 4 Reasons Why NFTs Are a Great Fit for Photographers. And go over to 500 Pics. Again, you can follow that link. One of the other articles here that I was really interested in talking about was this new Mac Studio. I suspected that iFixit would tear down the Mac Studio. They always do this X-ray photography of chips and other elements of a piece of hardware. And it says here, iFixit has gotten its grubby mitts on Apple's new Mac Studio, which starts at $4,000 and goes up to $8,000. And the Studio display, which I haven't even bothered looking at because it's so expensive anyway. I can't even justify the Studio display price, even if I wanted it. And has taken apart both to learn more about them, including how easily they can be repaired or even upgraded. There has been a lot of talk, by the way, about the SSDs that are in the Mac Studio. There's 2 sockets for SSDs, but they seem to be proprietary. If anybody were to reverse engineer and make it so that you could put some other purchasable SSD in there, it would be amazing. But they probably would be sued off the planet. But let's click this link so that we can see this article. This is an article written by John Porter over at The Verge. And it has a video, which is the iFixit teardown. Removable, replaceable, but not necessarily upgradable drives. So yeah, you can take them out. There's some discussion about what is on the SSD that Apple has included in its production of the Mac Studio. I want this because I want the M1 Ultra chip, which is 2 M1 Max chips fused together. As they were talking about it in the the Apple reveal earlier this month, they basically said that the M1 Max chips have had this secret and nobody really has been able to decipher what it was until now. And when they revealed it, they basically said it's a backplane so that two of them can be fused together. And it's seen as one chip, and it's phenomenal. It apparently blows the pants off of the GPU, an external discrete GPU, like a 3070. It's faster than Intel chips at lower temperatures and at lower power consumption, which is really a good ratio anyway. But this is air cooled, not liquid cooled. Like my system, if I was air cooled, the fan would probably be able to lift my desk off the floor because I'm always running so much stuff. I want this Mac Studio Ultra, but at $8,000, yeah, that's a little bit. I can buy at least 4 systems for that price, and and use each one of those systems for another purpose instead of just this one. But then I would never have to upgrade. The Mac Pro has lived a long life. Its predecessor lived an extremely long life. Now the Mac Studio and its power capabilities, it's such a powerful device that it could probably last 10 years or more without needing an upgrade. You would have to add more and more storage though, or external storage too, because you won't be able to do anything inside. But if you go over to iFixit and do a search for the teardown, you'll be able to see the innards of this thing. I don't think that the article doesn't have any of the pictures, but they always have some neat photography of the chip when they do an X-ray of the chip and the teardown of the Mac Studio itself. But let's continue on. The next article is kind of hyper-local, and so again, I kind of warn you, this one might be a little boring for you unless you're really into tornadoes. This is in the Daily News show, which is this show. More than 60 tornadoes tear through 5 states in 2 days. A tornado damaged homes and knocked out power in the New Orleans area on Tuesday night, which is a couple of days ago. It was a suspected EF3 that hit New Orleans. But the reason why I brought this up is because 60 tornadoes in 2 days going through 5 states. To me, it sounds like a lot. And just kind of an indicator of the weather overall, and that it's getting more erratic. There's some pretty good evidence about climate change leading to bigger storms more often in the areas that you would normally get storms. And then because the weather changes are so dramatic, you're getting them kind of stretching out into areas that they normally weren't able to reach. For instance, just the other day where I was, the temperature dropped down into the 30s again because of a thing called a polar vortex. And it just dropped a ton of cold air. And we're towards the end of March, it's kind of rare. But there's a bunch of pictures, and this is an article over at ABC News written by Mark Osborne and Bill Hutchison. It has a video. You can go over to the site. You can follow the link and check it out. But let's continue on. I only have a couple more articles. And this one is in the Continuity Report, which is a channel that's all about TV shows and talking about basically whatever you find entertaining, really, about a show. But this says Star Trek Picard. If you're not into Star Trek, sorry. How the actor playing young Guinan, Ido Agayer, I think I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, so really sorry if I am. If you know how to pronounce it, let me know. stepped into Whoopi Goldberg's shoes, and there's a spoiler. The story discusses specific events in Season 2, Episode 4, Star Trek Picard, currently streaming on Paramount Plus. So if you are interested in this and you haven't seen it yet, avert thine gaze. And let me see. I'll put something in chat that lets you know that you can look. I haven't seen this episode. I'm not really surprised. Things don't really spoil me when I'm watching something or even reading something. Not that it ruins the experience, but I'm just not really spoiled by something. Although Vera, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know why I'm all hyping Vera. It's a 12-year-old series, so you've got 28 episodes or so that you can go and watch. Actually, no, you got more than that, 48, because each season is 4. So anyway, Vera always surprises me, pretty much. So it goes into detail about Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 4. You'll have to subscribe to Paramount Plus. Depending on your location, I think the price changes based on locality. It says, it turns out that the scene wasn't just an exercise in nostalgia either. After his reunion with Guinan, Picard finds himself plunged into a horrific alternate timeline in which the Federation doesn't exist. If you've seen the beginnings of this season, then you already know about this. But there's a totalitarian empire called what is it called? Oh my gosh. I just lost it. The Confederation, I think it's called. Yeah. Anyway, the series is dark, and I'm not sure how dark it's going to end up getting, but it started out really dark, has the Borg back in business, and it's just a really creepy season. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to just continue on. I'm done. You can listen again. So I just put in chat that I'm done and you can listen again, if anybody else is even listening. But it's also a podcast. So the next article is over in the Word in Tech. Yes, Netflix just got even more expensive. Netflix is increasing its prices. It's going to go up March 30th. Just going to click this link and take us over to it. Let me make sure that I throw this in chat. And go over to the article. This is an article at The Verge, and it's written by Katie Keck, Keck. And the prices continue to go up pretty much across the board for every service that I have. One of my services, which I complained about way back at the beginning of the year, was that my streaming service, which is DirecTV, which became AT&T TV, which became AT&T TV Now. Oh my God. And now it's DirecTV again. In 4 years, it went through like 5 different name changes, actually, and I can't remember them all. But everything is increasing in prices. And I think it's actually pretty ridiculous to think that this is an inflationary thing, because the costs to run this, they may have increased. But again, when you look back, when you back up another layer and you peel back layer after layer of onion, it's all about inflationary processes. And inflation is too much money chasing after too few goods. Well, the problem with this is a service like this doesn't rely on a good other than what it is streaming. So it's all licensing, and it's very dynamic. 1 month, there could be a show that's streaming from Netflix, The next month it's not. So where really are the costs coming from? You'd have to look at the financial documents that they file with the SEC here in the United States. And well, my problem with this is basically it's a bunch of sunk costs. So they've already infused all of the hardware into it, the software into it. There are people that are running it, yes. Maybe wages are increasing, maybe. But a lot of it is built on the premise that you always have to keep on increasing your profits. And if you keep doing that, you have to raise prices to meet the demands of stakeholders instead of doing what some stocks do, which they don't raise the price. In fact, they're lucrative enough where they're actually giving out dividends for stocks. So the profits that they make are enough to sustain the business and do reserves and do growth and pay back the stakeholders a small sum per share. But this isn't what's happening with Netflix and other companies. Don't get me wrong. It's not just Netflix. They're raising the price and then they're raising it again and then they're raising it again. For me, for my other streaming, one of my other streaming services, because I've got Netflix as well, every single year they raised it $5 and never gave me additional services. They would call me and tell me, hey, we're going to add this. They never did. Yet they raised it $5. By the time, and I was an early adopter, so I had a really low fee. But then they charged me more and more. And now I'm basically at parity with the entry level service. And I had to pay $10 more to get the thing that they had been promising. So we're not getting more value for this $20. We're getting the same exact service. And one of the problems that I have with this is as companies acquire other companies, mergers and acquisitions, competition is reduced and these prices continue to go up. So where is the consumer in all of this? That is why we have anti-competitive laws that are designed to stop anti-competitive practices. I don't know where this will end, but prices continuing to increase, yet salaries not increasing, means that we have less disposable income. Again, it goes back to there are forces here that are extracting wealth from a large number of middle class and lower at a rate that the upper classes don't feel the pinch. And while it sounds really kind of, I don't know, like I'm picking a fight or something, but it's downright sociopathic to keep on demanding more, even though nobody's making more, except for those who don't need more. But I've heard before from other people when I bring this kind of talk up, who are you to decide what is too much? I'm a human being just like everybody else, and I've got an opinion on things. So I am who I am, and therefore I have, without a doubt, the ability to think critically about things and make commentary about it. Happy to discuss it more if you are also interested in it. That's why I'm here. I actually want discussion. And like I've said in other episodes, keep it civil. I'll have a conversation with you. This next article, and my last article for today, is about the datal of past mystery. And so this is an interesting case that has been something that I have followed off and on for, I'll just say many years, because I don't look my age, but I'm old. And so maybe I do. I had actually had some guy walk into a stream that I had started way back. I mean, I've been on Twitch for a long time. Different account, different world, different universe. But I had somebody walk in and right out of the gate said, "What's this old dude streaming about?" Mortally wounded. Not really. But just to hear that right out of the gate was, I'm like, yeah, I'm right about things. Anyway, they came in, they said their bit, and then they bailed. But that was a long time ago. Twitch had just started. Building gets called mom or mum. Sorry, different inflection. Here in the States, we call everybody mom, not mum. But I get it. And so this data of past mystery, is fascinating because the conspiracy side of things say that it was basically either a nuclear accident or aliens or some other mystery Yeti kind of thing, or all kinds of stuff comes out of the woodwork. But for most of the people who have been researching this, they basically say an avalanche occurred. And so some researchers did some more engineering and came up with this. So this is a Vice.com article, and it's written by Becky Ferreira. It says, video filmed during a recent expedition bolsters the leading theory that the mysterious deaths were caused by a special type of avalanche. And most people think of an avalanche as basically snow tumbling down the hill and burying everything. And what's really weird about avalanches is that you can be tumbled around inside this powdery mix, but it actually heats up as it's rolling down. And then as soon as everything settles, it refreezes in place. So you are entombed inside this thing. And you would have to struggle and try and make some room, and try and find your way out. But just like when you're in the ocean, if you can't see where your bubbles are going in the ocean, you have no way of knowing which way is up. And so sometimes divers freak out, and they panic. And the same can happen with an avalanche, where if you don't know which way is up, you can try and mash the snow in the wrong direction entirely. And the more oxygen you use, the more harm you can fall into. Well, in this case, it's a special type of avalanche. And it's what it amounts to is, let me see if I can get to the meat and potatoes of this article, known as a slab avalanche. That's what it is. And so basically it all shears off of at a lower angle, and it just wipes everything out. And that, let me scroll back up to this picture. And so this picture you see is of one of the tents from these intrepid hikers. Not really hikers. They were doing a little more than hiking, but their tent was shredded, but they say that it was shredded from the inside. And people were sans clothing in various ways out from the tent, right? So from the camp itself, they were further away than you would think if it was just like a normal avalanche. But this research basically shows, or at least it supposes, that the slab avalanche just kind of shredded everything and sent people scattering everywhere, which is really interesting, but it still isn't definitive as to what it is. And with every supposition of research, there are conspiracy that says, well, no, it was aliens that came down, or a Yeti, or whatever else. It's really interesting. So, I love a good conspiracy, but you can pretty much bet on this being something more natural. But I talk about this stuff. I don't know what the truth is in this matter. So maybe once my time machine is built, I can go back and record this. We're not sure what John Teeter is doing but maybe he can go back in time and solve this. If you've never looked up John Titor, Titor, John Titor, just do a search on Google for John Titor. It'll take you to a wiki page and a whole conspiracy about time travel. And with that, I'm going to take you back to the front of ohmTown. And I actually have a show called Temporology where I want to talk about the science and science fiction of time and time travel. Yes, I would love to actually be able to stream movies about this particular topic and talk about the show and talk about the idea of time and time travel. I know it's weird, right? Yeah, not really weird. It's fascinating, fascinating. And it's a real area of research called temporology. Anyway, John Titor was a time traveler that was sent back to get a computer, a particular computer that could run the time machine. Okay, so at the end of the show, I like to tell you that all you have to do is go over to ohmTown.com, sign up, become a citizen. You can select which channels you want to get news from. You can go into each one of these, like create, and it'll give you news from these shows. All of these are not shows yet, but I do plan on bringing them to Twitch. I'm looking for hosts and co-hosts. So if you are interested in a topic, if it's here or not, I would be happy to discuss it. Just get in touch with me. But if you click the front page, and as long as I didn't break anything today, because I'm always working on this thing, you'll get a whole new set of articles. And I'm actually working on a more dynamic front page so that it actually refreshes on its own and updates in real time. But I'm not ready to launch that yet. And I hope you got something interesting out of this show. And if you go to ohmTown.com and click through some of these articles, I guarantee you'll find something of interest. And it all gets consolidated into this one site. But it always pushes you over to the source of these little snippets. So I'll never take the entire article. And I'm always promoting the source. So go and check them out. And with that in mind, we're all done for the day. I really appreciate you hanging out. I ran really long today. So I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye. Oh no. I broke something.